So you're going to invite our other friends into this Zoom meeting?
Yeah, I'll be sharing that link.
Okay.
Okay, team. Here we have Ramprasad, who is a volunteer for this mock the Scrum Master interview.
Yep.
The whole context of this Scrum Master interview is not preparing somebody for a Scrum Master job, but this is for the person who is looking forward to explore themselves towards understanding the Scrum Master responsibilities and what are the uh, uh, contexts that the person bring in as a Scrum Master. So we are going to look at the Scrum Master's interview here.
Okay.
Welcome, Ram. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for volunteering for this program.
Hello, Naveen. It's a honor and a privilege. You have been my Scrum Guru from 2013 or 14 when I did my Scrum Master certification with you. So it is really my pleasure, my privilege to be part of this wonderful experiment, which will help many of us Scrum agents or Agile agents. So yep, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Awesome. So, Ram, uh,
Mhm.
tell us, how did you get started with the interest for agility and Scrum Master responsibilities?
Hmm. Sure. I will be honest. So around the 2010 time frame, I saw. I mean, I am a job seeker. I need salary. I need money. And I'm a software professional. I saw that many companies, service industry as well as product companies, were moving towards Agile Scrum. I worked for some top product companies, web product companies. They were following Agile Scrum. At that time, I was not a certified Scrum Master, but they gave us some in-house session, and I was playing the role of tech lead and then later manager, and I was part of the Agile Scrum. I saw them following Agile Scrum. I found it interesting. I found that there were some advantages. Then I thought, let me go through the textbook, let me do the course, let me get the theory part of it. And then while I was, there are many people teaching Agile Scrum. Coincidentally, luckily, I saw the link or the introduction to 12 principles. One of my friends told me they've done it with 12 principles consulting with Naveen Nanjundappa, and luckily it clicked for me. And yeah, so since I saw companies are moving towards Agile Scrum, product companies, I thought let me learn about it since it's becoming popular. That's the honest answer. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. In fact, this comment puts me under a lot of stress and pressure now that
Okay.
uh, how good your answers are going to be is going to reflect on my coaching as well or teaching.
Okay.
So
Okay.
good. Thank you so much. And as we are going live, it is not about showing somebody how good we are, but
Mhm.
to reflect on the thought process related for Scrum Master.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Now, Ram,
Mhm.
the first question for you is, what is your favorite topic
Mhm.
related to Scrum?
Sure. The thing I love most about Scrum is we give a demo at the end of every sprint. For me personally, that is what I like the most because there we are showing all the stakeholders. The sprints could be 2 weeks or 4 weeks, but we are showing all the stakeholders. Hey, this is what we have developed. Is this what you are looking for? Is this what you are expecting? Yes, no, maybe. So if you ask me one thing, this is my favorite uh, item, whether you call it ceremony item concept or whatever, that is the favorite thing to me. Demonstrate to your customer or senior management or product manager, stakeholders, show them what you have developed. Are we on the right track? If not, we have time for course correction. So my personal favorite is the sprint demo. Mhm.
Review. Okay. Why is sprint review
Mhm.
your favorite compared to
Mhm.
the other things? What is that unique thing that you see with sprint review that makes it a favorite for you?
Hmm. Um, Of course, the other concepts in Agile Scrum like backlog refinement, sprint planning, they're all absolutely useful. They add a lot of value, no doubt. Why I would say I feel this is my favorite is supposing I have goofed up something in refinement. Supposing I did something wrong in planning. Supposing during the course of the sprint I goofed up. Maybe my team is new. Maybe I missed out something. Whatever, if there are some gaps, some mistakes, something missing in the demo, we have a chance to, as I said earlier, to show what we have developed and to correct ourselves. That is the reason it is my favorite thing. And as you know, Naveen, there are many flavors of Agile Scrum. I'm a job seeker. I joined some hi-fi company. I have to follow their, to some extent, their flavor of Agile Scrum. Of course, I will influence them gradually, but I have to follow their flavor. Maybe it's a hybrid model, even maybe it's a iterative or a waterfall model. But when we give a demonstration, in short cycles, after short periods of time, if I'm giving demonstrations, I feel that adds a lot of value, that informs all the stakeholders. As I said earlier, are we on the right path or not? That's the reason I like the sprint review or sprint demonstration or sprint playback slightly more than the others. And even if I am not able to understand or follow, for some reason I'm not able to understand what is backlog refinement or what is sprint or daily scrum, I can still give a demo and, you know maybe survive. This is my.
Okay. Okay. So, as a Scrum Master,
Mhm,
how would you get yourself prepared for a sprint review,
mhm,
which is your favorite event? So, how would you get prepared yourself?
mm. So, starting even from the basics, first thing is keep the environment ready. Many a time we are scurrying around for the meeting room, conference, whatever. Keep the infrastructure, meeting room ready. Secondly, um, hopefully I have been part of the refinement and sprint planning. I have been listening in and coaching the team, so I know what was the sprint goal. I know the sprint goal. If I don't know or if I have forgotten, I'll once again go through the sprint goal. What was the sprint goal that the squad picked up, that they committed? At least let me try to get familiar with the high level functionality of, what the sprint goal is doing. And I'd have a look at the acceptance criteria. What are the acceptance criteria that the product owner or product manager has put in for this sprint goal or for this set of stories, so that when the demo is going on and if the product manager says yes, it meets my criteria, no, I would be able to, maybe judge a little bit. So to answer your question, I would go through the sprint goal, the user stories, which would be coming up in the demo. What are the acceptance criteria? Be familiar a little bit with the application, with the what is going to be demonstrated. So set up the infrastructure. Thirdly, make sure all the relevant stakeholders are invited as per the particular organization's framework. Make sure all the relevant stakeholders are invited. If with permission of everybody, record the demo. These are some of the things I would keep in mind. Yep.
How would you deal if the stakeholder or a product owner does not turn up for
Mhm,
your sprint review?
mhm,
What would you do as a Scrum Master?
mm. Okay. So the sprint review is where the squad is showing to the most important stakeholder, which is the product owner, what they have built. So product owner is mandatory for the sprint review. He has to see and sign off that yes, this meets the acceptance criteria. So of course, before we started working, I would have spoken to the product owner. I would have coached him that you are mandatory. So maybe it's a one-off case, some personal emergency. Yep. Then I would, call him and I would postpone it. Definitely, I would postpone it. Not too long. Maybe different slot on the same day, or worst case, the next following day, because product owner must be there. He is the most important stakeholder. So I would ask him for another available slot and tell him to attend it. He should be there. So I would postpone the sprint review. Uh, if it's a recurring thing that he or she, the product owner never wants to be in the sprint demos, then we have a bigger problem. I have to talk to management. So what to do? Yeah.
Okay. whom do you think is accountable for this sprint review? Is it the accountability of a scrum master, or is it accountability of a product owner?
Mm, when you say accountability to to
Have the
do the
sprint,
review,
yes,
sorry.
to have the sprint review, who is accountable?
Okay. So arranging the sprint review or facilitating it is the Scrum Master's responsibility. Giving the demonstration, showcasing is the squad, the Scrum team or the development team or the squad. It is their responsibility. Uh, Listening to the review, watching the demonstration, the running code, and saying it meets criteria or not is the product owner's responsibility. So I would say, yeah, that is how the accountability is shared among at least three parties: Scrum Master, Scrum team, and product owner.
Okay. Now, let's assume a situation where
Hmm,
your product owner is
hmm,
unhappy about the
hmm,
product that is developed and showcased by the team members in the sprint
hmm,
review.
hmm.
And the
Okay.
product owner is going to give a lot of feedback
Hmm,
and has a lot of updates to correct
hmm.
on the existing product that has been developed, the functionality that has been developed.
Okay.
The team members are really angry on this feedback
Hmm,
because the product owner could have given this feedback way early in the system, maybe during the planning meeting or at least during the sprint. Now,
hmm,
the
hmm,
team members are angry that this product owner has given a feedback on the last day,
hmm, hmm.
and the product owner is unhappy that there's a lot of changes that are required on a product increment.
Okay. Okay.
The situation is very hot.
Hmm,
You are a scrum master. How would you
hmm.
handle this?
Okay. So first of all, it's really good that in the sprint demo, at least in the sprint demo, the product owner has shared all his feedback. It is definitely better. Sprint demo is much better to get the feedback rather than towards the end of the release or after the release. So I know it's a potentially shippable product increment. So first of all, it's good product owner has finally opened up and put all his thoughts of feedback on the paper, on the surface. So that's a good thing. So I mean, being somewhat an experienced IT professional, I think okay, it's a good thing. Now, so could this feedback have come earlier during the sprint planning or during the daily scrum? We have to think about that in the retrospection. So if the team is now very much hassled, I would say, guys, calm down. It's good. We got feedback. It's good. That is what this sprint demo is meant for. It is the right place to catch this. So let us not get hassled. Let us not get excited. It's really good. How to deal with it? We will think in our next sprint planning, in our sprint retrospection. So that way I would tell them to that it's a good thing, calm down. And then we have received all this feedback. Of course, outside the sprint demo, one thing that along with the Scrum team, I as a Scrum Master would have to see, is this feedback valid? I mean, has the Scrum team developed as per the user story? Are the stories, is the running code matching the acceptance criteria or not? If it's matching the acceptance criteria and then the product owner is saying, no, this is not what I wanted, then I have to coach the product owner to write proper acceptance criteria. I sit with him, also get a couple of tech leads. So this is what is in the mind of the product owner. Write better user stories, elaborate the user story, uh, elaborate the acceptance criteria. This all we can do in the retrospection or in another meeting. But if acceptance criteria have captured it and the team has missed it, then we need to retrospect with the Scrum team why you have not met the acceptance criteria, why you have not met the definition of done. So depending on this, so to calm them down, I'd say it's good. We got the feedback. This is the right place to catch it. Guys, don't get worried. Good. And feedback valid or not valid, that's another thing. Then retrospect. Where do we do the correction? Do we need to do some correction in the backlog refinement stage? Could we have caught these? Is it a slip in the requirements, backlog refinement, user story elaboration in that stage, or sprint planning? Or was it something in the daily scrum? In some teams, the product owner is present in the daily scrum. In some teams or organizations or projects, the product owner does not attend the daily scrum for whatever reason. If he's attending the daily scrum, really good. So could he have given this feedback then and there? So depending on what's gone wrong, we will have to, with help from, maybe if required, with help from the management team, where to do the corrections in which part. That is how I would try to address it. Mhm.
I'll come to this soon. Now, as a Scrum Master, when you are trying to explain the team members and the product owner that it is fine to have a feedback and it is positive that we have got a feedback,
Hmm.
your team's manager or the organization, the management team, one of the representatives from the management is
Hmm.
also in the sprint review
Hmm.
and is raising a concern now
Hmm.
that if there is a feedback and if the product owner considers that this increment is not going to be accepted,
Hmm.
then the manager is upset that the team's
Hmm.
velocity is going down.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the manager is forcing the product owner to accept the work.
Hmm. Hmm.
How would you deal with this situation now?
Hmm. Okay, so now my job would also be on the line. So in that particular organization, see, our interest, as agile scrum practitioners, is always to add value to the product, add value to the product and add value to the customer. So if the product owner is saying that this is not an acceptable uh, sprint output, not an acceptable increment, I would first, at least at my level, whatever best I understand the functionality, I would go to the acceptance criteria and user story. And if I feel yes, we have missed, there are things missing, then I would tell the manager, I would, tell him, there is no point in releasing something which is wrong, just because there is a due date. So if yeah, I feel the product owner, the feedback from the product owner is correct, this increment is missing few things. There are few major bugs. There are gaps. So what's done is done. But let us we cannot force. Nobody can force the product owner to accept something which has gaps. So we cannot force him to release this to the customer. Yeah, I did a brief study. Even I agree with some of the gaps which the product owner has pointed out. And this is not going to add value to the customer. Even if you release it, customer is also going to see the same bugs or gaps. So in turn, it will be it will show something negative on our side, our company's side, or our team's side. So let us not force the product owner. That is
So,
other.
so
Mhm.
Ram, you're
Mhm.
okay for the velocity of the team to be less or zero for that sprint.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
that what you're
If I find that whatever has been developed in that sprint is incorrect and has many bugs as per the concern raised by the product owner, yes, then I am okay that the velocity in that particular sprint is zero, or that particular sprint is a null sprint. Yep. Rather than uh, shipping something which is wrong, we have to take that hit, and then we have to do a serious round of retrospection so that it never happens again. We'll have to sit together and retrospect. So it's going to be a long retrospection meeting. But yes, I am okay to take that hit of zero velocity. I mean, velocity is if valid story points and value is added. If we are sending defective thing anyway, it's not going to add value. So yeah, to answer your question, I will take zero velocity sprint or null sprint or void sprint and then retrospect seriously on it with the whole team. Yep.
okay? A last question on the sprint review because it is your favorite topic. If the team has done half work or half items are completed during the sprint,
Hmm.
what happens to this half done work
Hmm.
at the end of the sprint review? And how would you handle it?
Okay. So when you say after, let's assume the squad has picked up 4 stories. So you're saying 2 stories are completed and 2 stories are not.
Yes.
Okay. So the 2 stories which are completed, good. Give the demonstration and ship that tiny increment. The 2 stories which could not be completed, either they are not meeting the acceptance criteria or they are not meeting the definition of done, which has a lot of technical things like testing, test cases should pass, and all the technical stuff will be there. So if the two things which are not been completed, um, if they are still the topmost priority, I assume they are, because we are we had taken it in the current sprint, I assume they're still at the top of the stack, then this would move on to the next sprint with the half done things, and we try to complete it in the next sprint. Of course, we have to retrospect why we could not complete it, why we missed. Retrospection is there. If in by chance, in the period of this sprint, the priority for these two things has gone down, and we have spent half effort or some effort, but the product owner says it is not so important now, I want to move it to the middle or bottom of the product backlog before the next sprint starts, we can do that also. So just a small check with the product owner, are these two stories still important? Okay, then take it up in the next sprint, and then plan for whatever new stories can be picked up. That is how I would approach it.
Okay, you have been using a lot of sprint word. So
Mhm.
tell me about what is the sprint all about? What is a sprint?
Sure. Hmm. So we have our product backlog, with the list of all the product features which we want to add to our product one by one. And as we know, the features at the top of the stack are the most important or give the most value to our customers. Now, a sprint is a time frame or a time boxed period. It can be 1 to 4 weeks. Typically, people suggest 2 weeks, but it can be anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. More than 4 weeks is not advisable. So, a sprint is this time frame of X number of weeks where the Scrum Squad, they pick up from the top of the product backlog, and they say out of the 10 most important things, we can work on the first three things, and they commit that in this sprint cycle of 2 weeks, I can work on the first three user stories or bugs or whatever, and I can complete them and ship them to our customer. So sprint is a time boxed period of time, where a bunch of work is taken by the Scrum team, and during the sprint, there can be no interruptions or change to the scope. And at the end of it, we hope to see the review or demonstration. You're on mute, Naveen.
Ram,
Yeah. Yes.
okay. How do you decide on a sprint length?
Hmm. So I don't have a very good answer, but typically how I would do is, when we are starting off on a project, meeting with everybody, product owner, Scrum team, myself, and management, one or two people from management, and we have a discussion. So, folks, now you know what Agile Scrum is. I have given a small session. Many of you have Googled it, read about it. I would ask them, what sprint size, sprint length would you people like? Would you like to see? 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks? Uh, Generally, for the Scrum team, 2 or 3 weeks is better because there are certain preparations, meetings, planning meetings, and all to happen. So I feel 1 week would be too less because we have to do sprint planning, then sprint demo, then sprint retro. So I would suggest 2 or 3 weeks. At the same time, ask the product manager and management, are they under some sort of pressure to give tiny features to the market quickly? So I would ask all of us to sit together. I would personally recommend 2 or 3 weeks, and then we have to see, what is important for management, for the product owner, and what the Scrum team says. I would have an open meeting and then try to arrive at the length of the sprint. Um,
What is uh, so you're going to be deciding on a sprint length as a Scrum Master, or
uh, mhm,
or what parameters will you consider to help the team decide on a sprint length? So
mhm. Definitely, I would not decide. I would make the team arrive at a consensus. What are the important parameters? Hmm. We have to see the size of our stories. Of course, user stories should be small, independent chunks. So, depending on our application, it is not always possible to keep on breaking down the user stories. So we have done some refinement. We have refined the stories. We have given story points. So if one parameter would be, if you see that the stories are slightly bulkier, they would need 2-3 weeks. If you see majority of the stories are that way, then probably I would suggest to the whole team that maybe a 3 week sprint is better. If you're seeing that many stories in this particular application, whatever it is, we are able to break down into smaller stories, which would take 3 days, 5 days, then even a smaller sprint size would be better. So size of the story, effort required for a story would be one criteria. I'm
But
not
now,
able to, I
Ram,
need to think. Hmm.
Ram, are you deciding the sprint length based on the size of the requirement, or are you going to break the requirement into smaller chunks based on the size of the sprint? I mean,
So
to be
both
confused.
have to go, yeah, um, both have to go hand in hand. Since now we are deciding the size of the sprint for the next, let's assume for the next 6 months where we are going to work together. So probably we want to see how well we can divide the stories. That's why I was thinking, and if it's an application where we cannot, if it's very difficult to divide into tiny stories, then maybe suggest a slightly, suggest a 3 week sprint. Mm, but I don't have very good answers or criteria.
Okay, what is the shortest sprint length you have used and why?
Mhm. So the shortest sprint length I used was 1 week. We were working as contractors along with the team in a very popular web product, email and web product company, very popular. So their management was very strong and specified. We want 1 week sprint, and the reason for that was along with adding new features, they had lot of tickets like bugs, bug fixes, and tiny fixes coming in from their customers and from other stakeholders. So, and the effort for those tickets was very small, like in 3 hours, 4 hours, you can complete one ticket and fix it and get it tested and do it, or max one day. So even in 1 week, we would see 50 tickets are done or 100 tickets are done. So that was one time where we used this short sprints cycle of 1 week. Naveen.
What is the longest sprint length that you have used?
Oh, 4 weeks. 4 weeks we had.
Why was that 4 weeks?
So in that particular organization, we wanted to match end of sprint. We also release. So they wanted to release once in a month. So we wanted to match our sprint cycle also to 4 weeks, so that at the end of every month we are releasing, we are doing a product release, we are placing it, we are doing a general availability release. So to match with that, people wanted to go with a 4 week sprint. Uh,
Okay.
that was the reason. Mhm.
In that case, uh,
Mhm.
why would you still continue to use Scrum? Why not Kanban if you have a lot of tickets?
Yes. If we have a lot of tickets, we can use Kanban also. We used it once for a maintenance and production support kind of a project where we were getting a lot of tickets, and they wanted the prior. We started with Scrum, and then we saw that in the middle of the sprint, every other day, due to management pressure, due to valid reasons, they're saying, no, no, stop, forget those 2 tickets, take up these 2 tickets. These are higher priority. These are higher priority. So then in that particular project, we moved to Agile Kanban. Every morning at the start of every day, we used to look at our pipeline of tickets and reprioritize afresh with the product owners. What is most important for today. So yes, I mean, Kanban can be used where we are getting multiple tickets and where we want to check the priority on a daily basis, we can use Agile Kanban. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, in one of the comments that you made, you said that
Hmm.
it is required for a product owner to attend daily Scrum. But as far as I have read the Scrum guide, it does
Hmm.
not mandate the product owner to be part of daily Scrum. Why
Yes.
do you think it is important or required for a product owner to be in daily Scrum?
Hmm.
And what is the benefit that you see?
Hmm. So yes, it is not mandatory as per the Scrum guide. I feel it will be useful if product owner is a silent observer, or listening in. It would be useful because one, he or she would be listening what the team is speaking about, how the work is going on, how the development is going on, and in case he observes that, oh, the team has interpreted this requirement in the wrong way, he can correct it. He or she can correct it then and there. Another thing, suppose the squad mentions, I have a blocker to complete this story. I need a I need something. I need a Google Cloud account, or I need some ID. And he says, so this is a roadblock for me. Scrum Master or somebody, please resolve it for me. So if the product owner is present and he already has a solution, he can resolve the blocker then and there, especially if it's a blocker with regard to the requirements. Sorry, I did not give a good example. If it's something with the requirements, there's some confusion between the UX design. Uh, okay, the UX designer is saying, I want the design this way, and the UI developer says, no, this is not feasible. And then a decision has to be made. If the product owner is present, maybe then and there he can make a decision. So it would probably help to remove the obstacles quickly. It would help the team to move faster.
But
So
don't you
so I would
think?
recommend. Hmm.
But don't you think a daily scrum is
Mhm.
for the team to make a quick decisions and plan for the day towards their sprint goal and the sprint
Hmm.
backlog items?
Hmm.
So, a product owner describing in the daily scrum,
Hmm.
wouldn't it create some kind of disturbances for the inspect and adapt?
Hmm. So yes, you're right. The daily scrum is for the team to tell what they did yesterday, what they plan to do today. But there's also an item, any obstacles, any impediments. So what I was telling earlier was, in case there are impediments, the product owner may help to solve the impediments then and there. But if the product owner is explaining the requirement in the daily scrum, yeah, that's a wrong thing. So the requirements elaboration should have happened during the refinement and sprint planning one. But in spite of our refinement, if some doubt came up, I meant to say that the product owner would be able to maybe be able to clarify it and help the team move faster. But if it goes into a requirements discussion, then as a Scrum Master, I would have to stop it. I would have to say, yeah, there is something not clear with these requirements. Let us have a separate offline meeting and refine that story once again. But if it's a quick course correction, quick thing, then product owner could pitch in. But yeah, if it's going into a long discussion, yeah, we'll have to stop it and do a separate meeting.
What is the best time to have a daily scrum?
Um, yeah, so we ask the teams, the squad teams, when would you like to have? Personally, I prefer start of the day. But once we also need to check with the squad what time they feel is most suitable. Starter of the day, middle of the day. In some projects, we are working with people in other time zone. We might be in India time zone, they might be in the US time zone. So maybe we are working slightly late in the evening, late night. So then squad says, I prefer 12 noon. So if the squad, and most important, the squad, Scrum Master, and if they are okay, any time of the day, but first half of the day, so that if there are any impediments, we can catch them. Yep, start of the day or within the first half of the day. Uh,
Okay, I have a
yeah.
question for you on this. Impediments.
Hmm.
We know that
Hmm.
impediments are going to stop the work or pause
Hmm.
the work, and uh, team members, we have to resolve the issues, resolve the impediments to move forward.
Hmm.
Yes, if the team has an impediment,
Hmm.
would you like to solve the impediments, or would you like to coach the team to solve their own impediments?
Hmm.
Which approach would you take and why?
Okay, sure. So, see, impediments, the Scrum Master is responsible for getting the impediment solved, but the Scrum Master himself or herself necessarily doesn't have to solve it. So, yes, I would coach the team members to, you know, find ways to solve it to solve it themselves. If required, taking help from product owner or management or scrum master, I would definitely coach the scrum team to solve the impediments themselves, because if the scrum master is going to solve each and every impediment, scrum master himself will become like a bottleneck. So wherever possible, coach the team to solve some of it. And of course, there will be some impediments which they are not able to. There, the scrum master would pitch in, and maybe the agile manager. But it should not become a habit that every tiny impediment or rough patch the squad sees, they come and give to the scrum master and then wait for a period of time. That would be have a negative effect. So I would coach the team to take a closer look at their impediments. Maybe they can get through it, how they can solve it by themselves. Maybe they have to reach out to product owner, UX designer, somebody else. I would coach them to try to do it themselves rather than create a long list of impediments for Scrum Master to take and run around. Not that I want to reduce my workload, but in order for the team to move faster, to have achieve better velocity, yeah, I would coach them.
Okay. Now,
Hmm, hmm,
if you have an impediment,
hmm,
I mean, how are you going to address it? Who's going to help you?
hmm. Sure. Maybe can you give an example, Naveen? Or let us think of an example.
Let's assume that you're a scrum master, right? So
Hmm.
you yourself have an impediment.
Okay.
How would you solve that? Or who
Uh,
would help you to solve it?
okay, I will take an example. Let's assume the Scrum team needs access to some server or needs license to use some particular software to get their work done. They don't have the license, they can't procure it themselves. So this impediment comes to me. Even I can't, buy the license by myself or get the access by myself. So in such case, I would go to the agile manager or the management team. I would place the impediment before them and explain what is the impact and try to get the resolution as soon as possible. That is one example. Or were you referring to something else that I myself blocked? If you can give me an example, I can try to. Uh,
No, I think you're good off. Like you're going to take a help of the management to help you resolve
yeah,
those impediments. Fine.
yes, if it is the
One
type.
example. Can you give one example in
Hmm,
your work experience
hmm,
wherein the team was unable to resolve the impediment and you had to
hmm,
jump in and
hmm,
resolve the impediment? Which impediment did you
hmm.
resolve
Okay. There
in
are
your experience?
we get lots of impediments related to access, related to infrastructure, related to requirements clarification in the middle of the sprint. So one popular one is many a time the UX screen design, you know, won't be ready, or the latest version won't be available. We get started with a low fidelity or first cut UX wireframe, and then in a couple of days, third day of the sprint, we were expecting the final screen design so that the team can do the complete the story. So that is one place where frequently as a scrum master I have had to pitch in and say let us have the screen designs on time. Other popular areas are usually related to infrastructure, access, software licenses, availability of not hardware but other software infrastructure. This is where team gets completely stuck. Product owner can't help them. Then Scrum Master and management have to get this software infrastructure in place quickly. And it's also a sign of slightly poor refinement. During the refinement stage, we had not discovered this. But yeah, those are some examples.
Okay. Uh,
Mhm.
what is the best estimation technique according to you?
Hmm. So our story points is a sizing technique, where during refinement, we are able to size, and after a period of 3 to 4 months, the whole team speaks in terms of story points. It is not person hours, it's not person days. Even the product owner, product manager can start giving, although he's not supposed to, he can start thinking in his story points. Developers, Scrum Master, everybody can. Estimation, I know, um, I always encourage my team, okay, you picked up a story, divide it into as many subtasks as possible. This is somehow similar to a work breakdown structure in waterfall model, but maybe it sounds similar. But I would encourage them break it down into subtasks, more and more subtasks, and then for each subtask, you will be able to estimate, judge better, and say how many person hours or person days is required for each subtask. So you know, that is how I always approach it. Break down the story into as many subtasks as possible, technical, functional, and then give the time required for each. Yeah.
Any other techniques in estimations that you have heard of?
Um, function point estimation was a popular one I had used long
Okay.
ago. If IPFUG committee, suggested where they measure the data function points and transaction function points, and it is
Okay.
supposed to be fairly accurate. Um, but no, I'm not able to remember any others.
Which technique
Mhm.
does your team use for estimations?
Uh, our Scrum team,
Yes.
you're referring to refinement, or after we break down the story
Estimations. Which
estimation?
estimation technique your teams use?
We use simple work breakdown structure. So we have picked up the story with the most value, break it down into subtasks. While breaking down into subtasks, sometimes we feel this can be split into 2 or 3 stories. We do it. Then under each story, break down into subtasks, and then based on our experience for each subtask, we give the estimated effort. Hmm. Yep. I'm not used any other better technique. Maybe I have to learn
Okay.
some things on that area.
Okay. Uh, in fact, there are other techniques such as the planning poker estimation technique,
Hmm.
affinity based
Okay.
estimation technique,
Hmm.
uh, historical data based, or the kind of wideband Delphi technique. So I was
Okay.
just thinking if you know any of those or used any of those in your work.
Um, Planning poker, definitely we are using while refining the stories and arriving at the story points. Yes, we are using planning poker cards. Each team member has, based on Fibonacci series, he has his 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 story points, and planning poker we are using for backlog refinement to arrive at the story point size. Definitely. Others, I have heard of them definitely, but I have not used them. I have to start using them, and maybe they will add value. Maybe they will improve, make our estimation more accurate. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You're, you are the Scrum Master, and your
Mm,
manager is going to
mm,
ask you,
mm,
how are you planning to improve the productivity of the team?
mm,
Give some instances.
mm.
How would you improve the productivity of your team as a Scrum Master?
Okay. This would be a question from management. So, um, one thing is, first I will ask the management what is productivity in their terms. What do they mean by productivity, and what type of improvement in productivity they are expecting? What is their expectation? Because different people have different.
Okay,
Uh,
Ram. To
mm,
me, let's assume to me the productivity is the team has to produce twice
okay,
their capability. So
so
sprint after
double
sprint,
mm,
they have to increase the outcome.
velocity.
I don't know. I'm not going to call it as a velocity, but their
Okay.
capability has to increase, and their outcome has to be 2x their capability currently.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you help the team to improve their productivity and capability sprint after sprint?
So I don't know if first of all, productivity cannot be doubled sprint on sprint. But yes, we have to definitely improve our velocity. We have to start moving faster as we are working together as one team. Say at least every 3 months or once in every 5 sprints. Definitely, we should see our velocity improve. We should be adding more value to our product, more story point, more features, more story points. So to achieve that, the refinement of our stories should improve. We should, as we understand the product, understand each other better, our refinement, our definition of ready. We have a definition of ready. We should make the definition of ready more and more robust, add more criteria into the definition of ready, so that during the backlog refinement we have done elaborate refinement, and we have probably captured everything related to that user story. This in turn will lead to less number of impediments or blockers during the course of the sprint, and automatically the team's velocity will improve. And once the velocity improves, we will see more features getting released at the end of every sprint.
Uh,
Sorry.
how how do you define the team has improved in your own experience?
Hmm.
How do you quantify that your teams have improved in their capability and performance?
Yes, I would say first five. Sure. First five sprints, this is the average velocity. Sprint 6 to 10, see, the average velocity has increased by 10%. Sprint 11 to 15, average velocity has again improved by another 5%. So by looking at this, it is very clear to me that, since the velocity is improving gradually, team's productivity, efficiency is also improving. That is how I would measure and look at it.
I have a question for you here then.
Hmm.
It is the team which is working hard. It is the
Hmm.
team members who is working faster
Hmm.
and delivering the requirements into product increment.
Hmm.
You are a scrum master.
Hmm.
How is that your success if the
Hmm.
team is improving their velocity? If the team is being faster, what
Hmm.
is your contribution in that? It is the team which has been doing it. So, what is your
Hmm.
contribution? How did you contribute to speed up the work? What did you do?
Yep. So the team's velocity is improving. Nothing would be make a Scrum Master more happier. So what has the Scrum Master contributed? What I have contributed is, hopefully I have coached the team to do better backlog refinement. I have coached the team to have the right definition of ready. I have coached the team to have the right criteria in the definition of done. I have helped the product owner to write elaborate user stories. Maybe I have suggested a template for user story to capture the different items, to write good acceptance criteria. Hopefully, so I have coached all the stakeholders, you know, to play their respective role, and maybe as a result of this, the velocity is improving, and so I would pat myself on the back a little bit, saying that I have coached the different players, different parts of the product organization. I have been able to influence them, coach them, guide them, and make them, run the Scrum machinery as a well-oiled machine. So that way, I would feel some satisfaction that I have helped to improve the productivity of our team.
Now, what measures will you take
Hmm.
to keep the team members motivated
Hmm.
during the sprint? How will you ensure the team members are motivated during the sprint?
Hmm. Okay. Okay. We'll look at, we have different information radiators. So first and foremost, we have the sprint burn down chart, whether it's electronic form or on a physical board, or we have a notice board. So every day we are seeing the sprint burn down chart in front of us. All of us are seeing. Nobody has to point out or call it out. Developers, Scrum team, Scrum Master, partner, we're all seeing it. So if gradually day by day stories are getting completed, yes, we are all happy. If we see stories are not getting done, then yeah, we are under some sort of pressure to question ourselves why, what is the impediment. So different types of information radiators is what as a scrum master I would use, which would suggest to the team what's going on, what's the current status, and looking at that, they themselves would realize, okay, we are lagging behind or we are doing well, and they would auto correct themselves So you have sprint burn down chart, release burn down chart. If in sprint
In
burn
fact,
down we have. Yep. Yep.
I understand you are connecting it to the information radiators,
Hmm.
but there are situations where your team member is emotionally down because
Hmm.
he or she did not get a salary increment.
Hmm.
Your team member did not get a promotion this year, so they are
Hmm.
emotionally upset.
Hmm.
How do you motivate them? You're a scrum master. What would you
Okay.
do?
Sure. Definitely. These are people issues. We have this in all the teams, and it is very common and part of our life, our work life. So these type of issues would be handled along with the agile manager or the management team, not the scrum master alone. Either scrum master plus management team, and in some cases just the manager would would have to pitch in. So jointly we would have to address this type of concerns like no salary increment, no salary hike, personal issue, emotional issue. Yes, we have the management team, we have the HR team where we can counsel, guide, and help the employees in this type of people issues. Seek help from management. Yeah.
Interesting. Uh,
Mhm.
what was the last Scrum related book or Agile related book
Hmm.
you read?
Um, I read the uh, first book once again. In fact, let me check if I have it. Give me a second. As I find it, I thought of showing it to you. So Sutherland's first textbook, I once again, started going through it last year. Um, uh, Jeff Sutherland's How to Do Twice the Work in Half the Time. That was the last book. I had read it long ago, about 7, 8 years back. So once again, I started going through it. It was just to refresh my knowledge. And then I found another interesting book, 50 Ideas to Develop User Stories by some Russian author. I've not read it, but I just purchased it. I might be having it on my desktop. Yeah. 50 Ideas to Write Better User Stories. Uh, you're on
Now,
mute, Naveen?
now,
Huh.
Ram,
Yep.
from the latest book that you have read,
Hmm.
what is one thing
Hmm.
that you remember, or what is one point that
Hmm.
made you think while you were reading
Hmm.
the book?
Yeah. From Sutherland's book, most important thing I felt is we have when we start on any project or product, we have so many requirements. The thing which the most important thing was stack ranking. Identify the most important requirements which add maximum value to your product and customers, and bring them to the top, or bring them in front of you, and forget the rest of the requirements, or temporarily forget the rest of the requirements. That is what stayed in my mind. The most important requirements, identify them and start working on them. Because many a time we make large 1 year plan, 2 years plan, and after 6 months or 9 months, the market situation has changed, and what we thought was important 6 months ago might have lost its value today. So today, what is most important? Top 5 features, top 5 items, get them, identify them, prepare those requirements or user stories, and start working on them. That was what I remember, recall, and which what struck me the most.
Awesome.
Naveen.
Okay, so I have last two questions before
Sure.
we wind up this interview.
Mhm.
The first one is, in this ecosystem where everybody is distributed,
Hmm. Hmm.
what challenges are you facing when your
Hmm.
teams are distributed and you are a
Hmm.
scrum master in one place?
Hmm.
What challenges are you facing, and how did you overcome these challenges during the COVID lockdown and the distributed ecosystem? Your
Yeah.
experience.
Sure. All of many of us would have faced this. Agile Scrum recommends, you know, working together, being on the same floor, same building, being co-located. Daily scrum must be done in person. We don't do daily scrum over the telephone. And then something which mankind never anticipated happened, which probably breaks the most important role of scrum. So we are forced to work remotely. Yes, we all face this. The biggest challenge was the emotional challenge or the mental challenge. We were all used to working together. Of course, we have some on-site teams, offshore team, but at least offshore team, we were all used to working together. We had our physical scrum boards. So, no, there was a lot of disturbance and there was some amount of chaos. But as we all know, finally the various conferencing tools, video conferencing tools, you know, we started leveraging them. It might be Google Cloud, Zoom, or whatever my organization has chosen. Might be WebEx. There are so many Microsoft Teams. So online meeting places came to the rescue. And yeah, many times we join calls and we don't switch on the video. So if we switch on our cameras, it makes huge difference where we are seeing each other and we can have focused meetings, as most of us have realized by now. Switch on the camera, look at each other and have a quick meeting rather than switching off the camera and then you don't know what I'm doing. So yep, as simple as that. Now luckily I think once in a week or once in 15 days we are allowed to go to the workplace, so that is helping us a lot, helping the team to once again come together. uh, uh, but to answer your question, yeah, online, different online meeting tools. And then now we have to rely more on the reports generated by Jira. Earlier, we could have some manual reports, but now try to use the different Jira reports. We found few plugins which get different types of metrics, which go through the various sprints and generate different metrics and reports. So we explored those Jira plugins and some other reporting tools which can, like EasyBI or something which will get data from the Jira database and create the required graphs and statistics. So that helped a little bit. Yep.
Okay. And the last question is,
Yeah.
you as a Scrum Master,
Hmm.
what is so unique that you're going to bring on to the team and to the organization
Hmm.
where you work? What is so
Hmm.
unique and special about you as a Scrum Master that the team and the
Okay.
company is going to get benefited?
Hmm. So I have been using Agile Scrum and a little bit of Kanban for almost 10 years now. So uh, along with the wonderful principles that Scrum textbook or theory gives, how we apply it practically in our day-to-day work, in our product development, this mixture, I believe it would add value to wherever I go to, develop new products or enhance products. Plus, I have also worked on waterfall earlier, like many of us earlier, I have worked on traditional waterfall also. So there are pros and cons in waterfall also. It's not that waterfall is completely useless. There are some pros and cons in waterfall. We know, I know, me and you both, we know those concepts. Now I have been following Agile, Scrum, little bit of Kanban for almost 10 years with the different types of product teams, offshore, on-site teams, global teams. So hopefully this knowledge, this experience would help me to coach and guide any team to transition into a good, well-functioning Agile Scrum team. If they're not already, if they're already following Agile Scrum, then I would be able to, based on my experience, based on different situations, scenarios, and different types of product teams that I have worked with, I would be able to coach them to maybe further improve their velocity, improve their refinement, retrospect better, and this way use the right tools, techniques for depending on for different Scrum ceremonies or different stages of Scrum. Maybe I could help them to use the right tools and techniques. So I feel, yeah, this way I would add value. Yeah, you're on mute, Naveen.
Okay, Ram. So
Yeah.
that brings us to the end of this interview. Yes, we
Okay.
are going to have a second round of interview over a period of time. But
Sure.
for the given time, I think we have discussed and explained a lot of questions for this interview.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being part of this and volunteering.
Yep. It was a pleasure, Naveen. Thanks to you for arranging this. Yep.
Thank you so much. Now, let us switch the gear.
Yep.
Now, as a coach
Okay.
and Ram as a person who has volunteered for this, I
Yep.
would like to give you some observations, some feedbacks, and
Yes.
improvement
Yes.
areas based on this interview.
Yes, sir.
Would you
Most
be happy?
important. Yep.
Would you be happy to receive those
Uh,
feedback?
Absolutely. I would be very, very happy and eager to get that. Um, that would be very valuable. Please
Okay.
go ahead, Naveen. Yep.
Here are some of the feedbacks for you.
Hmm, hmm,
One, your context and your experience. I could see that you have a lot of experience and uh, you have gone through those situations.
hmm.
But one thing during the conversation which I felt is the terminologies that you're using should be clear. So give importance to the terms that you're using. One example is you were using the term squad. Now, squad is not a term in Scrum. So you have to be clear, are you using the terminologies of Scrum? And if not, you just have to be clear that, okay, we are using this framework or these modifications and uh, squad is equivalent of this and this is how my team is structured or you have structured. Get the clarity on the terminologies. That's the first, the feedback that I have. The second one is you are a scrum master and you have experience. But then for somebody to believe in your experience, they need some quantified answers or quantified numbers or some thoughts which will which will get the team members, the person who is working with you feel like, wow, this is the person I need to work on. So get that quantification on your work.
Okay.
Sometimes qualitatively, sometimes quantitatively. So you
Okay.
need to showcase that. That is one of the aspect.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
And the second and the third very important aspect is
Mhm.
as a scrum master, what you're going to do is you are going to look at each of the situations and use tools and techniques and strategies to to help the teams resolve the impediments or help the teams move on to the next level.
Okay.
Now you have to be clear on why the tool is being used, what is the purpose of the tool, and how is it going to help the team and the organization.
Okay.
So you may want to just brush up on that.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to give you more feedbacks. Just hold on.
Okay.
Before which, I'm going to talk to the people who are watching us live.
Okay.
Hey guys, you people saw us live, and this has been unedited version. It is a mock of the Scrum Master interview, not to encourage people to look for a job change, but as Ram volunteered, this is for us to realize where we are supposed to improve. And if you are interested, drop in a message and we will try to schedule 30 minutes to 1 hour of a interview like this and probably assess you as well or help you out with your core areas of improvements. If you like this video and the session, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment on this. Thank you so much, Manoj, for all the feedback and comments that you have been giving and all the other audience who have been listening. We are going to go and continue with uh, the feedback to Ram offline, which are going to be more personalized to his uh, content. So, for all of you who have been watching us so far, thank you so much for tuning in. And please do leave your message if you are interested in being part of this kind of a session. Thank you. Bye bye.